All right, so let's talk about CastleScape here for a minute. A lot of you who have been watching this know that there have been a lot of delays in China. There have been a lot of delays, just logistics around the world, shipping and everything. So with all of the COVID shutdowns and everything, I am super excited to finally be able to share CastleScape first sample from the factory. So I have not opened this box yet. Tape is sealed all the way around. I'm excited to see what's in here. Little terrified I might gotten the wrong package, but you know, you never know. So we'll see what happens here. But let's go ahead and open up this box, and we'll see what's inside. So if you have any questions, please feel free to comment in the chat. I will answer those as I have availability, and yeah, we'll get this show on the road here. Try not to injure my game while I'm cutting it open here. Well, we didn't get the wrong game, folks. How does it look? Woo! All right, looks awesome. All right, so I'll open this up in just a minute here. Let's go ahead and move this box out of the way. All right, sealed in shrink wrap and everything. It's got a fair bit of weight to it. Here are all the little pieces moving around inside there. Let's see how we're doing. So I've got a little section here off to the right where you can get a close-up. So a little too close up here. Let me go ahead and raise that up just a bit. You can kind of see the box. Looking good. Looks like the art came through really well. Great color. So far, so good. First off, we have our instruction manual. This one took a lot of time to put together. I had a proofreader kind of initially, and definitely went a lot of work into this, and then I've done a lot of proofreading myself over the last little bit. So we can kind of just quickly flip through, see all the different stuff. This thing went through about 20 iterations, and it's online, so if anyone has any additional thoughts or comments, please feel free to go through it. I'll leave a link in the chat later, and you can take a look at it, learn how to play the game if you don't already know, and give me feedback if you need it, or if you have any. So everything is looking great. Awesome. Well, I will go through that in depth later, make sure there aren't typos, make sure everything made it in, but yeah, we're looking good. All right, next up, also thank you, Brent, I appreciate that. All right, next up we have the upgraded player boards. We had a lot of, we went for a stretch goal that improved the size of these. These were just 0.5 millimeter boards. They are now 1.5 millimeters. So I don't know how well it comes through on the camera there, but definitely thicker. But one cool thing about these that we added pretty late, I had a number of players talk to me and say, you know, I like to draw on the left, or I like to draw on the right. And initially I only had it one way. But I actually worked with my artist. We kind of reversed the art a little bit, moved some stuff around so that you can now have the indicators for draw and discard on either the right or the left, depending on which side you like to play. So that's pretty fun. Did that for all 4 of these. There are 4 different player colors: blue, yellow, gray, and red here. So that's exciting to see, and feel really good. There's a lot of heft to these. Definitely feel like they'll hold up over time. Next, we have the King's Quarry. So this is the primary area where you are going to be pulling walls from as the game goes on. We've had a couple of iterations for this. Different walls and number of inspections based on how long the game is going, or based on how many players are playing the game, excuse me. And this is an indication for how many inspections will be in that game. When I get to it in a couple of minutes, I'm going to pull out some walls, set them on here, make sure the sizing looks good and everything. But that's good. So we'll set that to the side and pick it up in just a second. Next up, we have the game board. Let's see how this turned out. So this had an interesting idea when we were putting this together. So game board, first off, looks great. Definitely looks like it'll hold up over time. All the art and everything looks like it came through really well. Thank you very much to Tracy Van Wagner and Kurt Keller for all their work that went into art and design on these things. So really excited to see this. So this is the main game board. It's very simple. You've just got like one little spot here on the main game board that indicates where you place your starting wall. And then from there, you build out your castle and compete against other players as you're going through it. Now, one thing that I had some playtesters bring up and other things kind of just going on is that we wanted the opportunity to maybe vary it up a little bit. So either start with different configurations of walls, or we're also looking at adding like a one-player mode in the future. I don't have it ready for this version of the game, so I apologize for that. But this, at least at this time, I wanted to leave some variability in this to kind of improve and make the game better. So to that point, what I did was I printed the board again on the back, but we added a grid. So you can see numbers along here, and I apologize, it's upside down. Let me just go ahead and flip that around. Numbers and letters to indicate a grid. So right now the plan is for a one-player game, it might be able to reference these different parts of the board. For instance, G7 would be this right here, and you could put a wall on there, you could interact with it, put your recruits there, that sort of thing. So this is kind of a future-proofing. Also, theoretically, if you want to, you could set up the board on your side, you could have somebody 100 miles away set up the board on their side, and similar to chess, you can have letters and numbers to indicate on the grid where you're building your things. So this side of the board, other than those sorts of things, is just kind of a future-proofing for the game. Really wanted to have that there. One thing I am noticing is I did want to also remove this piece right here, so I'll have to do that, work with my manufacturer to do so. As I mentioned, different configurations of walls and stuff. You could start with like a star pattern or something like that to make the game a little more interesting, a little more fun off the bat. So overall though, great quality, looks great. Really excited to play a game on this today. All right. Next up, let's just go straight for the walls. So one of the fun things about being a first-time designer is working with people to try and design a mold to print your parts. Longpack has been really good about that. This is the castle wall piece. Let's go ahead and pull out a couple of these. And thank you, Imagine That, and thank you, Ari. Appreciate the comments. All right, so one of the fun things about this game is I didn't want to just have eye candy. A lot of the games out there really try to, they make these really cool minis, which are awesome, and I don't want to downplay those. Like a lot of my favorite games have really cool minis and characters and whatnot. But what I really wanted to do with this game is I wanted to make sure that every piece had an intention. So something I've always wanted to do is make a game where you build a castle. But I want those walls to actually have a purpose. So this wall, you can see it's got that little area in the top. The recruits sit right inside the top. And actually you can tip it over quite a bit before they actually fall out. So this is really fun. You get to set up all these all over the board. Get 100 of these in your game, and when you're playing the game, I said I was going to check these out later on the quarry. So when you're getting these from the quarry, depending on how OCD you are, you can flip them all up and whatnot. These will be sitting on the center of the quarry here, and you're going to do this, and when the quarry is empty, after you've built all these walls on the game board, you can have a marker that you move down here on the inspection track, refill the quarry, kind of keep going through the game. So really exciting to see all of these parts come together. All right, let me just check my comments really quick here. If I can drag that over. Thank you, Brent. Yeah, that was trying to use both sides of the game board. Definitely something that came to me late in the process, if I'm being perfectly honest, but I'm all for trying to make sure that everything is as useful as possible. And you know what? If one side of your game board gets a little scratched up, please, by all means, use the other side. So the idea here is just I want to make it as useful as possible for everyone playing and give it as much life as I can. All right, let's go ahead and dive right in. So we've got 100 walls here. This turned out great. The recruit cubes that I pulled out, 13 of each of these bad boys here for all the different players. And what I really tried to do, and what I'm really happy with Long Pack having done here, just kind of looking at them, is another one of my big pet peeves when I play a game is if your colors of your player characters and your actual cubes don't match up. For instance, one particular game, I like Wingspan a lot, don't get me wrong, but the colors of the cubes and the eggs do not match up. Now, I know Jamie Stegmeyer has since kind of sent out other colors of eggs to kind of fix that problem and get the colors to be more synchronous, but I really liked that they were able to pretty much match the color. You can see the blue is very close, the red is very close, the yellow is very close, and the gray is very close. So very happy with the coloring on these wooden cubes. Similar, while we're in that neighborhood, we have our infamy and corruption markers, as well as our inspection tokens. So on the quarry over here, decided to go with a nice bright purple color to kind of indicate what inspection you're on, because this measures when the king is coming to inspect his castle. So purple kind of sticks out really nice from the board here. Quite happy with how that looks. Next up, we have these infamy and corruption markers. So these will sit right on your game board here, and those will be moved around as you gather infamy and corruption during the course of the game by playing cards that give you infamy or corruption. We will move these around and kind of just mark where we are. Overall, I like it. We're a little off center here with a couple of these pictures, and I might see if we can do some kind of varnish or something to make these wood tokens look a little bit neater. But overall, very happy, and maybe change the color of that yellow slightly to make it stand out a bit more. All right. So once again, though, the colors did a pretty good job, and they do match the cubes. So overall, very happy with those pieces as well. Go ahead and move this out of the way and move on. Next up, just briefly here, we have the claim tokens. So as anyone who has played the game before knows, as you're claiming Baileys on the game board here, let's go ahead and just pull this out. Pull a couple castle walls out here. As you are working through the game and claiming Baileys, which is little enclosures of a castle here, one thing that you can do, or one thing that you do, is that if you have the most influence there, as indicated by these little cubes, so let's say a blue player has this here, gray player has this, and a red player has this. You count up influence inside the Bailey or on its walls, People on walls, though, give more influence. Move that to the center of the camera there. So if this Bailey is completed, you count up all the influence. In this case, every person on the ground is 1 influence, every person on the wall is 2 influence. So the blue player would take a Bailey claim token and place it inside this Bailey. So we have this little bag of claim tokens as well. And again, colors match and everything, so overall, great with the pieces. Go ahead and leave that board set up for just a moment. And then I will go ahead and move on. All right. Let's go ahead and actually, I'm going to pick this up and move it. Yep, the board definitely is looking good. The seam does not seem to have a problem, so really excited there. Thank you, Imagine That. All right, where do we want to start? Let's go ahead and start with some of the cards here. So first off, we have 2 large decks of cards in the game. This is kind of where all of your deck building happens. And then we also had the Kickstarter promo pack that was unlocked through a stretch goal. So good job, everyone, for unlocking that Kickstarter exclusive promo pack here. Let's go ahead and just open this up and see how the cards look. All right. Cards feel pretty good. Art came through great. Try and give you a close-up of how this looks here. These are all the standard cards and the starter cards, as well as our reference cards. 1 for each player. These are double-sided, and again, have the player color, so you should be able to easily recognize what your player's cards are. We also in addition to the starting deck here, let's get that out of light, we have our contracts. These are your game end goal cards to basically, if you do this by the end of the game, for instance, claim a Bailey with at least 6 enclosed squares. If you manage to do that, then you get an extra 4 points located in the top right-hand corner here. So we have 20 contracts here in the base game, plus 10 goals. Goals are mid-game things that you can go for that like have 7 infamy or more. Infamy is actually a bad thing, but if you have 7 infamy at some point in the game, on your turn you can go ahead and claim this goal. It is worth 6 points at the end of the game. So there's other things about like claiming Baileys, having a number of recruits on the board, all of that. So definitely something to keep your eye out as you're playing the game. All right, take just a brief moment here and look at a couple of the comments. I see any chance of a playmat version of the game, single or double-sided. At this time, if you're talking about a neoprene mat, I don't have one anticipated for this version of the game, but for future expansions, definitely something that we might look into doing. I do like a good feeling neoprene mat. Will the insert hold sleeved cards? Now, this is something I worked with them to make sure it did. I even have the sleeved cards that everyone who bought sleeved cards on my Kickstarter, I have those here ready to test that. So we will go ahead and look at that in just a second after we're done running through the cards. These are your main rotating market cards, so kind of flexible deck. We also have in here some of the art that was paid for by backers for a special art pledge tier. One of my favorites, the wanted posters here. Don't know how well it's coming through, but this was a really fun version of the art that somebody kind of gave us some fun pictures. It says Wanted Kid Richard and his partner in crime, Cypher. So really excited about the art kind of coming through, and everything's looking great. So really excited to see this. Now, for the sleeved cards, let's go ahead. Ooh, that fits there. Really nice. You can see there's not much warping around the edges. No real problem, just a very slight gap. Good job on the sizing from the factory, if I can actually get this in the card. I'm going to go ahead and just sleeve 5 or so of these. And then we'll jump into the insert. Yes, Tracy, they look really good, so thank you. All right, let's go ahead and move these cards aside for a moment here. All right, so we've got our 5 sleeved cards here. As mentioned, here is the box insert. So couple things we want to do here. The walls go right here. Right now we have kind of a weld with I don't know how well you can see it in the picture there, but these are curved edges around here so that you can just stick your finger in there and get it out. These can hold your player cubes and your different tokens when you're playing. These fit right in there. So should make it so that nothing ever gets caught in the bottom of the well here. These can also hold other bits and bobbles. Your decks of cards, if you are not sleeving them, fit in here right like this. There's a little depression here in the plastic. Makes it easier for you to just get your finger in underneath there and pull it out right away. Now let's check out sleeved cards. That is something. They do fit, although it is a little tight. So that is something I will work with the factory before we actually go out and add a millimeter or so on the sides here. It looks like top to bottom we're not too bad, but side to side we are just a little bit crunched in the corners. So definitely don't want that to damage the cards in any way. So we will expand that out. Make sure that does not happen. So there you go, Ari. Good question to ask, and yeah, absolutely. I will make sure that we do that. Finally, I wanted to kind of go through the last part here. Set this aside for a moment. And also, please, by all means, ask questions if you have any. I'm happy to go through and answer them. We had a Kickstarter promo pack here. So this is the promo pack that will come in your box. 10 bonus cards that people got. Made some new art for this and some new cards. And this particular promo pack has its own mechanic in it. It's called Echo. Has to do with how many cards are in your back alley area of your player mat. So basically, if you're doing evil things, these cards might have additional effects. So we've got a few cards here. A lot of them using that Echo keyword for their stuff. And these all look great. There's a look at the CastleScape card back here. So a couple other things I wanted to just kind of quickly talk about while I have your attention. Fun little stuff that I tried to design into the games to really help people who wanted to play. So we tried to take the most direct approach to like simplifying information. When I originally designed this game, I just had a ton of keywords on the cards, like 8 or 10 keywords. We since have trimmed out a few of those through a lot of playtesting, figuring out some of them weren't useful, or incorporating them into other aspects like the quarry. But there are still a number of keywords. So for instance, on this card pack, let's just go over the anatomy of the card really quick and just kind of show you how this works. So up here in the top left, you have the cost to purchase the card, 4. This flag here is victory points at the end of the game. We have another banner over here on the left. I'll ignore that for just a moment and come right back to it. We have down here a couple of other things. So this one actually subtracts infamy from your player mat, and also gives you 2 gold. Now, you might notice this says 2 gold and it has like a hand receiving that money. So the idea here is that anything that gives you gold, there's a banner that's always in this relative position of the card, and that will basically simplify when you're looking at a hand of cards. Let's just say I'm going to grab a couple here. Let's say this is my hand of 5 cards. You'll see that I can quickly sort by the gold banners here and just see that there are that I have 4 gold that I can spend this turn. Also, that middle banner, the blue, is number of recruits that I can place on the board. So if this were my hand, which this would be a crazy hand, by the way, I could place 7 recruits. This one doesn't have any banners, but it still has effects that it takes. Also, you have your infamy and your corruption at the bottom of the cards, so that when those cards are played, they will go into your back alley, and you can kind of just stack up those cards in your back alley after they've been played. And when you get to the end of your deck, you go through, you shuffle everything, you just count up all of the infamy down the left side and all of the corruption down the right side, and you use your little infamy and corruption markers. In this case, it would be 3 infamy and 2 corruption. So 3 infamy, 2 corruption, and you can just mark it on your board that way. And then these get shuffled back into your discard pile and then made into your next deck. So the 3 main mechanics of the board, just kind of rounding out that conversation. 3 main mechanics in this game, the board game, are recruits, gold, and walls. So gold is always at the top, followed by recruits, followed by walls at the bottom. That's that gray banner down there. So you should be able to see at a glance in your hand just how much gold you have to spend, how many recruits you can place, and how many walls you have. Everything else is kind of just on the text of the cards themselves, but that should help you organize your hand and just at a glance see what you can do during your turn a little more effectively. All right, so that is the game. Are there any other questions at this time? I can just talk a little bit about a few other things, but at this time, that's kind of the unboxing of the game. Overall, I'm super excited to see all of the parts kind of come together here. Thank you again to Tracy Van Wagner and Kurt Keller for all of their amazing art and layout and design. Super happy to be working with them, and really excited to get this through the factory and finally get a sample. So yeah, if there are any questions, I'll just go back up through the comments really quick. Looks like I did hit everything. But yeah, we can talk really quickly about just kind of state of the world, kind of how the game is looking, and go from there. And if you have any questions during this time, please feel free to ask. But yeah, so right now this is the first sample that we've received. The idea here is that I go through, I verify that stuff works, I take note. I'm going to play a couple games, hopefully get one in tonight or tomorrow, and then get back to the factory really early this week with the updates for whatever needs to be done. For the most part, things are looking great. There was just that one little wall symbol on the back of the board that I wanted to remove, as well as making sure those cards fit in the sleeve, in the insert in the box, and otherwise. But for the most part, really happy overall with the box, with the insert, with the cards, everything. And going from here, we will be working to work with the factory, basically give them that feedback, and then they go and set up their manufacturing line. Once they've set up their manufacturing line, then we will get one more sample. And I'll probably be doing an unboxing video for that as well, just to make sure everything looks great, make sure they tweak those few things, fix those few things. And then from there, they will go ahead, I'll give them the green light, they'll go ahead and manufacture it. Once they've manufactured it, which usually takes 45 to 60 days based on my quantity of games, assuming there are no other complications with factories shutting down, COVID, anything like that. Once all of that is set and ready to go, we will board a ship, come over to the United States, UK, and Asia. We've got 3 planned fulfillment partners to fulfill the game. And from there, we will distribute your games out. I've been trying really hard to get them to backers by Christmas. Basically, from this point, they set up a manufacturing line that can take 30, 45 days. Printing takes 30 to 45 or 45 to 60 days. Shipping can take a month and a half. So it's really hard trying to get this to backers by Christmas. But I am working as quickly as possible to try and do it. And as soon as I have more information from the factory, I will absolutely let people know. Better kind of timing on all of this. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of it here. I did want to take one more brief moment. I realized I didn't really go over the box all that much. I did show you the front, but let's take a look at a little more art here. So it's a little hard with the phone, but tell you what, let's go ahead and just raise this up a little bit. You can get the whole view of the box. Kind of got our player count, age, and time there. So those 2 sides are similar. On the bottom of the box, we illustrate the corruption and infamy portion of this game, the back alley dealings. Same thing on the top of the box. So what's fun is when you see this game in a store, you can display it pretty much any way you want. You can display the front of the box, you can display the side of the box, and you can display the bottom of the box. And each of them can give you a slightly different flavor of how you want the game to look on your shelf. So if you're a retailer and you've got this, or if you're looking to potentially purchase this from a retailer, keep your eye out for all those different sides. Also, I'd just love to go over the bottom of the box really quick here. We've got a lot of the kind of different pieces of art from the game. So this kind of side of the box is about building the walls, harvesting the stone. These are a couple. I pointed this card out specifically when we were going through the cards. These are a couple of pieces of art from our backers that we designed. They sent us in a picture and we incorporated them into the card art. The money side of the game, we've got our motivated shopkeepers and our kingly gift here. And then a couple more pictures here, thief stealing money from the royal treasury. So that's all awesome. Just love highlighting that art. And then we've got our board game box back. So CastleScape goes through your component list, gives you a little bit of a blurb here, and yeah. So all in all, looking great. Really excited to have this game, and I am really looking forward to getting it to your tables. So please, by all means, if you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to me on Kickstarter, reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram. I have a lot of different accounts, and feel free to reach out to me on any of them, and I'll happily message you back. So yeah, thank you very much. This has been a great live, and if you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the comments, and I'll answer them as soon as possible. Thanks, everybody.